Guardian, May 26, 2022. This is an article that we were exposed to for the first time, and the name of a possible preferred bidder who apparently this journalist was able to identify as being the successful bidder for our refinery assets, which would include, as you know, not only the Guaracara refinery, which is known as the Pointe-à-Pitre refinery, but also the assets and infrastructure of Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited. We understand the name of this company, which is based in USA, particularly a place called San Jose, California, is known as Quanten, Quanten, Quanten. This is what we understand. We understand this company to be the successful bidder. Members of the media, the playbook of World GTL, known as World Gas to Liquids Limited Project, Bridgman Services, NIDCO Energy Services, and the latest is called RH Gas Energy Limited, seems to be at work once again, as this administration, led by the Prime Minister, seeks to dispose of the people's prized assets at the Pointe-à-Pitre refinery, and I dare say the Paria Fuel Trading Company. The argument used by the government to justify the closure of the refinery initially, we want to tell Trinidad and Tobago, was flawed and based on a misunderstanding of Petrotrin's business model, as well as a misunderstanding of the accounts of that said company. To justify the closure of the refinery, we were repeatedly told by the Prime Minister between 2017 and 2018, that is up to November 30th, 2018, that Petrotrin was heavily dependent on taxpayers' support, and it was, according to Dr. Rowley, a ward of the Treasury or of the state. Members of the media, I have in my possession a recent FOIA response, which apparently was received by fishermen and friends of the sea, which proved this falsehood peddled by the Prime Minister, exactly that, right? Falsehood. What this revealed is that in 2016, the government made no contribution to Petrotrin, none. In 2017, no contribution to Petrotrin. In 2018, no contribution to Petrotrin. And come 2019, their only contribution to Petrotrin was to provide Petrotrin Legacy with $1.2 billion to retrench, terminate, dismiss, fired over 6,000 employees. That was the time when they made a contribution to Petrotrin. Members of the media, this is what we have to deal with. It's a big lie being peddled by this government. Our refinery, and may I say, our refinery, built, managed, operated by the people of Trinidad and Tobago, is roughly estimated at US $7 billion. I want to repeat this. Our refinery is worth, based on a conservative estimate, of US $7 billion. We all remember there was an attempt to sell this refinery to the Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, led by the OWTU, a couple of years ago. That was an exercise in complete mamagai and tomfoolery. At the end of the day, the government of Keith Christopher Rowley had no intention whatsoever of selling those assets to Patriotic Energies and Technologies Limited. And now we have heard via this report. Remember members of the media, no one from the government has confirmed that Pointen is the preferred bidder. No one in the government has indicated to Trinidad and Tobago that Pointen is the successful bidder. We have it coming from a reputable journalist. And may I say, this was written on Thursday. Today is Sunday. Some 3 days and a half later, almost. And there has been no denial, either from Stuart Young, the Prime Minister, or Mr. Inwood. So what are we to assume? It assumes that this probably has some truth. So we have to operate on the assumption that that matter may just be correct. So we hear about this company for the first time, Pointen Inc., or Curtis Williams called it Pointen Consortium LLC, located in San Jose, California. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the government has not denied this information thus far, and therefore one can assume that there is some element of truth to this story. But the question that we have to ask as the shareholders and owners of Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Company Limited, well, first of all, who is Pointen Inc.? Who is Pointen Inc.? What qualifies this company to operate our US $7 billion asset refinery that belong to the people of Trinidad and Tobago? What is this entity's claim to fame that have pushed them to become the successful bidder? No one knows. No one knows who is Pointen Inc. We ask the question, is this another NIDCO? Is this another Bridgman service? Never forget that series that Mark Bassant ran on TV6 entitled a gap in the bridge. He couldn't find bridgeman services nowhere in Vancouver, although they had given us 2 office addresses. One was boarded up and one did not exist. They couldn't find it. So we asked the question, is this another bridgeman? We don't know. All I can tell you is that no one knows about this company in any serious way. This company, based on our research, could you believe, ladies and gentlemen of the media, has, I want to go slowly, has no identifiable headquarters. You cannot find a headquarters any part of the United States for Quanten Inc. But that is the preferred bidder. We have been told by this journalist they won the bid. No identifiable headquarters. They don't even have a decent website. This is a company that we understand has won the bid. I want to tell members of the media, this company operates out of a suite located in San Jose, California. Here's it, members of the media. I want you to understand what we are dealing with here. This is at the Grand Bazaar. And in the Grand Bazaar, there is a room number 70, and Quanten Inc. operates out of a room. This is what we have discovered. Let them deny it. Let them tell Trinidad and Tobago that this is not their office. And you can't even call it an office. We understand it's a room. So we want clarification from the government because they haven't spoken as yet. Let them clarify whether this is the location of Quanten Inc. It's here. Members of the media, you can have it. I brought it for you, so you can have it. This purported company apparently is about to be given charge and responsibility by this government to run our US $7 billion refinery. If this is true what I've just told you, is Dr. Rowley mad? Has the administration gone mad? They gotta be serious. The government cannot be serious if what we are being told by Curtis Williams that this company called Quanten Inc. is the successful bidder. Let me go on to unravel this mystery. Quanten Inc. is owned, according to our research, by two brothers. Two brothers. They are known as the Myers brothers. M-E-Y-E-R-S. Myers. The name that we got from the California registry, because we have done our research, we have the evidence. So we cannot be challenged. We have the evidence. Jeffrey Myers and a fellow called Jerry Myers. They are two qualified electricians. Two qualified electricians who own this company that we understand from Curtis Williams has been successful in the bid to take control of US $7 billion refinery. 2 electricians, members of the media. These 2 brothers, we also learned, run another outfit. It is called Quanten Electrical Contracting Inc. So apart from Quanten Inc., they have something called Quanten Electrical Contracting Inc. out of California. But what was also interesting when we did our further research on this mysterious company, we discovered that 2 other companies carrying the same name were registered in a place called Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas. The first that we discovered is called Quanten Consortium Angola LLC. This company, mind you, was registered and incorporated on the 12th of March 2021. That's the first company that we have discovered associated with Quanten Inc. Who was it registered by? It was registered by an agent by the name of Dr. Sugon James Thomas. He registered that company. And the address of this company is a house. Would you believe that, Dr. Moonilal? This company that is called Quanten Consortium Angola LLC was only incorporated on the 12th of March 2021 by its registered agent known as Dr. Sugon James Thomas, and his registered office address is a house located at 16506 Scenic Peaks Court, Houston, Texas 77059. That's the first area that we discovered that caused us concern. 2021, just registered. Now this same company, I'll tell you, are in negotiations with the government of Angola to build what they call a refinery called the Soyo Refinery, SOYO. And they claim it will cost them US $3.5 billion to build. The other Quanten that we discovered that is related to Quanten Inc. or Quanten Consortium Inc. is known as Quanten Aruba Consortium LLC. So that's the second one. When was it incorporated? On July the 1st, 2020. By whom was it registered and incorporated by? An agent by the name of Dr. Sugon James Thomas. The same one who incorporated and registered the one for Angola, he has also incorporated the one for Aruba. You know where this office is located? This Quanten Aruba LLC incorporated in the Texas registry in Houston, Texas. Its registered address is a house. It's a house. You know what is the address of this house? 16506 Scenic Peaks Court, Houston, Texas 77059. 77059. The same house that they registered Quanten Consortia Angola LLC is the same house they registered Quanten Aruba LLC. I want to tell you what is even more frightening. I went on the Texas website yesterday at 2:26, 1300 hours, to get some information on this company. What company am I talking about? Quanten Consortium Aruba LLC. You know what the registry revealed? This company has been debarred as of yesterday at 2:26 because they have not filed their annual returns to the Texas registry, and therefore they cannot conduct any business whatsoever in Texas. If you cut a check for them, no, members of the media, they cannot cash it because they are being debarred. They cannot function in Texas because they have failed to find. The language that they have used is forfeited. That is in the document, forfeited. And you know what? 5 missing reports of information and failure to meet payments. The question that we want to ask the government: are these the entities that the government intend to conduct business with, to give away our prized refinery to, with assets valued at $7 billion US? We need a government to properly explain this situation, since the government could not be serious. This is another night one. Never forget that WGTL was introduced by a fellow called Kenny Stephen Julian. Or put it another way, Kenneth Stephen Julian, in 2004, to build a gas to liquids plant. Where's that plant today? It was blown up recently, a year and a month ago, which cost the taxpayers $3.3 billion, which is what we are paying back right now. And we have no WGTL plant. What we do know is that our lobbyist called Ainsley Gill, who is the owner or CEO of NIDCO Energy, borrowed on our asset at Point of Bear $120 million US from Republic Bank. That's what we know. And the plant is dead, cannot restart after 1 year and 1 month. That's what we are talking about. So is this another NIDCO? Is this another WGTL? Is this another Bridgman service with the co-hoster? I beg your pardon, the carposter? What is this? Is the government serious? And then the latest in the series of dots, members of the media, that we must connect. Because they are all interwoven, you know. It is all interconnected. RH Gas Energy Limited. The Prime Minister of this country has to explain to this nation how come these fellas were so lucky. You see, members of the media, we have to connect the dots. Let us not mistake what is happening in our country today. These people were able to incorporate a company on the 12th of June 2018, and within 1 year they got a marketing and bunkering license from this government. They got a bunkering and marketing license from this government, brothers and sisters. And they are operating and selling marine gas and oil on the high seas to ships as they come in and they go. I understand they are milking, they are making tens of millions of dollars at whose expense? Us, the people. Petrotrin was supposed to be doing bunkering, but they closed down Petrotrin. And 6 months before Petrotrin was closed on the 30th of November 2018, in June of 2018, you gave this company called RH Gas Energy Limited, Grant A, was incorporated. Who are the directors of this company? Stephen Small, Andre Peter Atwell, and one called Gilbert Peterson. I think this is the same Gilbert Peterson who is the personal lawyer of the Prime Minister. I'm not too sure. I need clarification. But what does he know about marketing and bunkering? That he gets a license in less than a year, and there are companies that have been crying out for a bunkering and marketing license. They applied for it over 10 years now, and they're not lucky. They're not lucky to get a license. But this company called RH Gas Energy Limited, in less than 1 year, they got a license for marketing and bunkering. And they're making tens of millions of dollars on the high seas. But because it's a private company, there's no accountability, there's no transparency, so we don't know what is happening. And then Mr. Al-Wari has the audacity. It is almost, I call Dr. Moonilal the irony of ironies, to tell the workers, he is telling the workers, go to the industrial court, we have no money. We have no money to pay you. This is the same man whose building, the CPO, is in located. The same building the CPO is located is the one that he is getting $23 million every 3 years from. But he tells the workers, go to the industrial court. Well, I want to tell Mr. Dr. Rowley, where's the money going to come from? Dr. Rowley, $3.3 billion for the WGTL plant going to waste. That's where the money should come from. The money that RH Gas Energy is making on the high seas, that should be going in the treasury and not in private pockets. That is where the money should come from, Dr. Rowley. You brought 2 vessels, Coast Guard K-class vessels, for $600 million, which cost the Australian Coast Guard $300 million for the same 2 vessels. One breakdown right now. Where did that $300 million gone, Dr. Rowley and Stuart Yap? We need answers. So they have to account. They have to account for this extra $300 million that was spent on these 2 K-class patrol vessels, one of which have now broken down. So these are matters that are of grave importance to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and we call on the government to address it. Now, it appears to us this is a scam, another scam and sham. It appears to be another scandal. So we tell the Prime Minister, back off. Back off. We will not allow you and the PNM to sell out our assets to another Bridgman, to another WGTL, to another NIDCO, or to another RH Gas Energy Limited. We are saying in the UNC that this company called Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited and its subsidiary must be owned and controlled by the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We want energy security. And by the way, don't come and tell us it's crude oil. You know what he did? He lies, that is the Prime Minister. He lies so much that he forgets what he says. At one time he says the problem was the 850 million US bullet payment in 2019. Then he come back and say in a Demerara Waves News that, you know what, the problem is crude. So what is it? Is it crude oil that is not available, or is it the 850 million US bullet payment that was due in August of 2019? And by the way, in closing, before I ask my colleague to enter this conversation, members of the media have an update, which I'll pass on to you. Heritage Petroleum Company Limited went on the open international capital market to raise, just a couple of days ago, $500 million US, and to borrow another $500 million US. So in all, Heritage is borrowing $1 billion US, and Trinidad and Tobago does not know a thing about this. It is secret, it's a mystery. These are matters that we are concerned about, members of the media, and at this point in time I will pause. I'll ask my colleague to intervene at this time. He has a couple of important issues he will want to bring to the nation's attention. So I'll pause at this time and invite the Honorable Dr. Roodal Moonilal, Member of Parliament for Oropouche East, to address this press conference at this time. Doc, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Mark. Quite frankly, I am speechless now after hearing that bewildering and shattering, revealing and explosive presentation on that matter of Quanten. I'll come back to a couple issues of that, but that has left me almost speechless to think that something like this is happening yet again with the taxpayers' money and under the very administration that gave us the World GTL, the gas to liquid debacle, that crashed Petrotrin, that destroyed Caroni, that has had innumerable scandals associated with buying ships and boats and aircraft and so on. Again, I want to say good morning and thank all the viewers for joining us for a regular Sunday morning press conference of the opposition. I will begin by the statement that enough is enough. I think after hearing Senator Mark, the national community will come to that conclusion that enough is enough. It is just mind-boggling, you know, to hear. It appears, Senator Mark, that this Quanten ink is not what the ink it is written on. To hear that this is really two electricians operating in a house somewhere in America that has conned their way through the government of Trinidad and Tobago and on the verge of capturing a multi-billion-dollar industrial asset that belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is bewildering, it is unbelievable and shocking, and thankfully Senator Mark had the documents in front of him that spoke to this international heist, this international scandal now involving an individual in the United States with house companies now. Before we would say paper companies, but now it's house companies operating in Aruba, America, and formed quite recently. I was shocked to hear that these companies are really one-year-old companies that has been formed apparently for the express purpose of conning the government of Trinidad and Tobago, assuming that the government is not aware, and they are not themselves participating in this with another motive before us. I just wanted to remind our listeners that they closed the Petrotrin refinery, they closed the Petrotrin operation, and has collapsed the economy, destroyed the energy sector. I was reminded in Parliament recently that this very party that closed Caroni 1975 Limited, the P&M, under early administration, they have now spent, taxpayers have now spent $10 billion to close down Caroni. When I remind persons, because I was there, in the final year of the operations of Caroni 1975 Limited, they had asked the government for $165 million in what is called a subvention. So Caroni's last demand on the Treasury was $165 million, and the government spends $10 billion to close down the company. The same thing is happening with Petrotrin. The money is climbing in terms of the money to close down that company. And the scandals, I was reminded during Senator Mark's talk here that NIDCO, part of the deal with NIDCO is that the profits from NIDCO, a certain amount, I believe 25% or so, would redound to the taxpayer. So when we ask how much money did the taxpayer get in this deal, they say no, the taxpayer don't have to get money now. As the company work and progress and develop, the taxpayer will get 25% of profit. But after 1 year, Senator Mark reminded us, that plant blew up. I think the plant literally blew up, and it has never been repaired or back in shape or not fit for purpose at this time. And when you look at that NIDCO matter, the Quanten matter now that you have raised, Senator Mark, the Petrotrin scandal of borrowing money like this, every month they come in Parliament and declare Heritage and Parry are making a profit, declare profit, and now we are hearing that is a multi-billion-dollar loan of some kind they are going on the international market to get. The other introductory remark I want to make is that I saw a shocking headline on the front page of a newspaper today, and the headline spoke to the issue of crime, and Trinidad and Tobago has been ranked as one of the leading countries in the world for high crime. And to read on the headline of the papers today, not all bad news, says Commissioner Jacob. And Commissioner Jacob, I want to tell you, with great respect of course, I think you are spending too much time with Fitzgerald Hines. And that company is rubbing off on you. Ethelbert Hines is rubbing off on Mr. Jacob. For you to declare that one of the reasons we did so badly in this poll is because people are reporting serious crimes. Mr. Jacob, I think I will leave that right here. I want to get to the issue here before us and before me, which is really an issue involving a matter I raised in the Parliament on the 16th of May, 2022. Senator Mark, I want to indicate that this is the complete report on the OS. I have it in my hand here. This is the report. We have had the opportunity to read this about 3 or 4 times. So we have studied the report now. On the day of the 16th of May, the opposition and myself came to the Parliament and raised this matter. I want to remind the country that if on that day I had taken a cup of sleepy tea and I did not awake in time, to this day this country would not have known of the OS NIDCO arbitration. If for any reason I was not in the Parliament, today this country would not have known. We had to go in the closet and drag Keith Rowley out of the closet on this matter. The date on this is April the 16th. April the 16th. 1 month later, this country never knew about this. Never knew. And if on that day I had something else to do, the country would still would not know. When we raised this in the parliament, the government took a vow of silence. They said nothing, absolutely nothing. 10 days later, Rowley goes on the platform and he blames the last administration for this. $1 billion ruling against the government. But brothers and sisters, Dr. Rowley came in Parliament a few weeks ago and read extensively from an Express editorial that was dealing with, I think, the child abuse crisis. He read extensively. In fact, had it not been for that editorial, he would not have had a speech. So I know that he has confidence in the Express. That is what we know. So this morning, I took up the newspaper, of course, and saw Sunday Express editorial of 29 May 2022, that's today Sunday. And I know Dr. Rowley has great confidence in this Express. So the headline for the editorial is NIDCO's 852 million fiasco. So I want to read pieces of this as Dr. Rowley read pieces of the Express editorial on a previous occasion, because I think he verily believes that the Express carries the truth. He verily believes that. And the editorial says, and I quote, "The Prime Minister's platform rhetoric following National Infrastructure Development Company Limited and NIDCO defeat in its breach of contract case against the Brazilian construction company OS was an exercise in avoidance of responsibility." That's what they say. They went on, of course, to speak of the issues and the emergence of the issues. And they say here, whatever the merit or demerit of NIDCO's action, now that the arbitrators have ruled against NIDCO, its current chairman, Herbert George, must disclose on what legal advice NIDCO had acted in terminating its contract. Dr. Rowley, too, has questions to answer. Did he instruct cabinet? Did he sanction NIDCO's decision to terminate the contract, which has now been determined, and I love the use of language in these editorials, which has now been determined to be an error of $852 million. Now, $852 million is really an error. It's an error. I'll speak to that in a little while, but the question is being asked, did Rowley instruct the cabinet to do this? Did the cabinet sanction this? The arbitrator's ruling that NIDCO erred in terminating the contract calls into question the management of this Herbert George-led board of NIDCO and the management of the government. It ends by saying the responsibility for the fiasco surrounding the termination of the contract falls squarely on the administration of Keith Rowley. And Dr. Rowley, I read this into the press conference because I know you have great faith in the editorial of an Express. And you should read today and study it, because these are the issues. The government has tried through Dr. Rowley and the political platform to tangle and mix up everything, speaking about an addendum bid days before the general elections in 2015 and so on. And that caused the problem, and the government was held back, so to speak, from taking action against OS because of that addendum. This ruling of the arbitrators have nothing to do with bankruptcy, has nothing to do with bankruptcy or even insolvency. This has to do with a breach of contract, that you wrongfully terminated the contract. It doesn't have anything to do with whether OS went bankrupt or not. In fact, OS has never been declared as bankrupt. In Brazil, they were undergoing what they call in their jurisdiction judicial reorganization. But the report says, this report, when you read it, they continue to work in Trinidad. They continued with the project in Trinidad. And I will just go to a couple small areas in the report. It's a very long report that we encourage persons to get their hands on and read. And they say here on page 80, the central issue in this case is whether NIDCO's termination of the contract was valid. And depending on that issue, whether any party is entitled to damage, and if so, how much. That is the issue. There's no other issue. And when they looked at all the submissions, all the material coming out of hearing and so on, they concluded they concluded that NIDCO unlawfully, wrongfully terminated the contract. It is here. And there are two matters that are hilarious, but they are very serious. Because we are dealing with $1 billion. One, NIDCO went on international court in London, arbitration, and said part of the problem is that they never wrote to us personally. The contract says you must inform the employer of any decision to stop work or slow down work. NIDCO actually went on international tribunal and said, well, they didn't tell us personally. They sent a letter to the engineer and copied to us. They carried an argument like that. The arbitrator said, hello, once you are informed, whether they copy the letter to you or write you the letter, you have been informed. What nonsense. NIDCO then argues, as the Prime Minister is seeking to do, that OS abandoned the job. They abandoned the highway. You know what the report says? This says the government did not pay OS for 3 to 6 months of work and outstanding bills to the tune of 32 million United States dollars. You were owing the company 32 million United States dollars in what is called interim payment certificates and so on. You did not pay. And when the government changed in September 2015, until December that year, they did not pay. So, OS, according to the contractual arrangements, what they did is slow down work. They never abandoned. In law, there's a process that allows a contractor to slow down work when they have not been paid, but not stop the job. And OS continued. The ruling says that the OS did not abandon the job. And I quote, at page 82, by the contract, they never abandoned the two matters are raised to add to the information in the public domain. What is a performance bond or retention securities? What is that about? They are saying that the UNC partnership changed the contract so we cannot get back performance bond. Performance bond is never the money of the employer or never the money of the party that is not the contractor. How it works is this. If someone is building a box drain, a highway, a bridge or something, they put in what is called a bond, which is done through a bank and so on, where the government holds the money in the event that there is some breach of the contract. In the event that for one reason or another that is stipulated, and reasons cannot drop from the sky, it is in the contract, the contractor fails to satisfy the requirements, cannot do the work, something happened, you take the bond, you seize the bond. But the law provides circumstances in which you can take the bond. What did Rowley and Stuart Young do, and Alwari? They went like they grabbed the money and ran. They took money that did not belong to them, which is called performance retention bond and so on, and they ran. They took off. Then they beat their chest all over Trinidad and Tobago and said, we win, we got the performance bond, we took it. But that was never their money in the first place. It was never. You understand that well? That was never their money. So what they did is they choke, they grab and they run with the money and declare victory. The arbitration says the money is not yours, please return it. Because those people went through the contract, they slowed down work, and then you illegally terminated the contract. So please return the money to the people. That is what this is saying. So a performance bond is not your money. Keith Rowley put his hands on the performance bond. I mean, I don't want to say it in too much a crass way, but people do that on Frederick Street. People do that in Port of Spain. They go up to somebody with a handbag and they snatch and run. They snatch and run with the bonds. And that total, incidentally, I must just put it on the record, that total in performance and retention bond is to the tune of 93 million United States dollars. So they go with 100 million US dollars and run and thought nobody would catch them. They thought that they can't get caught. In London arbitration court, they were caught. In London, and you can't fight there like you fight in Trinidad. You can't frustrate nobody there as you do in Trinidad. OS took them $93 million performance retention bond. The total $126 million US that they have to pay. Rowley on the platform the other night said, you know, they have a fascinating way with court cases now. Anytime the government lose a court case, they declare they save money. It's the only government that has saved money by losing in court. That's how they save money. He says that we only have to pay 400, we save 500. They have to pay over, I don't know, 126 multiplied by 7, 852 million TT dollars you have to pay of money that they went and spent already. Because when they stole the money, they spent it out. So now they don't have the money and they have to fork out $852 million. And the lion's share of this is the performance and retention security bond, which was not yours in the first place, which you stole. And the arbitration report is there, and more we will speak about this. But this morning, I wanted to say that the government of Keith Rowley must reveal the legal and other professional fees paid by taxpayers, which they shell out in addition to the $852 million costs in the OS matter. You see, I will call now the names, and if for any reason I make a mistake and I call a name that was not on the board of directors of NIDCO in 2016, I am prepared to apologize to any individual whose name I call, but they were not on the board, because the information I have is from the 2016 annual report of NIDCO. Mr. Herbert George, Chairman. Mr. Stephen Gardiner, Deputy Chairman. Mr. Steve Cheney, Member. Mr. Keith Gillenor, Member. Mr. Barry Tomyu, Ms. Nirmala Maraj, Mr. Charles Mitchell, Ms. Vernie Shield, Ms. Cuco Melville, all members of the board of directors of NIDCO in the annual report 2016, you are now called to account. You are now called. We will now publish your pictures to go with that. On our various platforms, we are going to put your picture now, because you need to come out and speak. Did you take this decision to wrongfully terminate? On whose advice? Who was the advisor? Who gave legal advice on this matter? Mr. Herbert George, I understand, is still in this position. Could you imagine a man that has led this country to $852 million loss sits happily in a seat as chairman of a company? Where in the world this obtains? Those persons must be held accountable for their actions in approving a decision to wrongfully terminate the contract. Mr. George, Gardner, Cheney, Gullenor, Tom Hume, Maraj, Mitchell, Sheila, Melville, please identify yourself and tell us what role you played in taking this decision. I am not yet saying that you should be held accountable in a court of law. That is not something other lawyers may want to reflect on as to your culpability in a court of law. But that's a matter we'll talk about another time. In addition, the government must state categorically the identity of the lawyers who gave NIDCO the advice to terminate. Stuart Young must state his role in this debacle. He is alleged to be a lawyer. He must state whether he gave legal advice. Minister Young must tell the country whether he depended on a known colleague of him, one Mr. Jason Mutu. Where is Mr. Mutu? I cast no aspersions on Mr. Mutu. But Mr. Mutu, you must now identify yourself and say what role you played in giving advice on this matter. And any United States legal firm, we understand that it was a law firm from the United States that gave advice on this matter. And I want to repeat in the editorial today, when the People's Partnership Administration made those addendum that they're talking about, it was on the advice of ACOM. ACOM was the independent engineer that gave that advice. We were doing that to protect the country. Those addendum, the two, 2013 and 2015, had to do with payments the government owed to OS. And when we could not get the cash to pay that way, we altered the contract so that we will finish on time, finish our highway, but we changed what is called the scope of works and allowed OS to settle some debts that we had with them. That was the purpose. This had nothing to do with bankruptcy. They have never been declared bankrupt. So, Mr. Mutu, identify yourself, tell us your role. This ruling has found that the government was guilty and irresponsible in breaching the legal contract with OS. Brothers and sisters, this morning let me read, because we can now declare with confidence that we have the information. Here are the legal advisors on this matter. We want to know their costs. What did you pay? Because that is another serious bill. Apart from the 852 million, Marcel A. Ferdinand, J.D. Stella and Company, Port of Spain, Trinidad. Annalise Day, Queen's Counsel, Fountain Court Temple, London, United Kingdom. They use Queen's Counsel in London for this business. One Annalise Day. Hugh Saunders, London, United Kingdom. And of course a very important name in Trinidad and Tobago, Jason Mutu, barrister and attorney at law, Trinidad and Tobago. This person is known to Mr. Stuart Young, and Mr. Young knows the person. And Mr. Young must now tell us what was the cost, because this person appears in several matters for the government. We cast no aspersions on his professional credibility, capacity. We say nothing about that. All attorneys are entitled to work for government or non-government. But we would like to know the costs associated with this mega piece of litigation. This could well be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I repeat, this is not just legal costs. When you do cases like this in construction law, in arbitration, there are professional reports, engineering, quantity surveyors, all type of what is called expert opinion, and expert companies are needed. They run up a huge bill. So today we call out this team, tell us the money that we paid, how much money taxpayers will be owing now to that legal team, and who influenced them in the first place to breach that. The losers are the taxpayers. And brothers and sisters, I want to repeat this morning, as I've said before, when this matter comes head on with the legal costs, which we will find out one way or another. It is a matter of days or months before the United National Congress is returned to office, and we will find out, even if we have to find out when we get in there. If they don't want to tell us now, we will find out. And I will tell the country again that monies like this, if a court deemed that there is breach of any law in arriving at this decision, there was a breach of fiduciary duties, there was a breach of the Companies Act, there was any breach, the people who must pay this will be the directors of the company. And we will go further that if this had the permission of cabinet, and cabinet was responsible in any way for this matter, I am saying the monies must come from Keith Rowley, Stuart Young, Faris Alwari and others. We must find now new laws to seize the pension and gratuity payments from Stuart Young, Faris Alwari and Keith Rowley. Their pension and gratuity must return to the taxpayer to pay bills like this, where it is deemed by a court that there was such a huge catastrophe in dealing with these matters, that they breach laws of Trinidad and Tobago using the cabinet as a rubber stamp. The Prime Minister must be held accountable. And if we cannot get to his pension, I want to put it to you, then we must consider taking away his goat farm, if it comes to that, to pay bills outstanding when he demits in disgrace, when he demits office. I had the displeasure of reading a report again on the last PNM meeting Tuesday last, and this Prime Minister again talking about what, 90 and so on. $852 million, talking about people 90. He has a very disturbing obsession with women's night clothes. It is a very disturbing pathology. And there are times, notwithstanding we're on different sides of the political divide, I genuinely worry for him that this may be a serious problem. That obsession with the night clothes of women. It is not a usual or routine thing for leaders to have that obsession. I say no longer because I'm not qualified in that area. That is for my colleagues in the medical and psychiatric field and so on. I do not hold qualifications in that area. But it is very disturbing that a Prime Minister, and including Minister Hines in the Parliament, had this obsession with female attire. I'll leave it at that. So in closing now, we have raised some new issues here. We have raised the issues of legal fees. We have identified the legal advisors. We have identified the legal and professional team involved in this OS matter. And I am calling now finally to ask the government, come clean on this matter. indicate whether or not you will go to a London court, because to deal with this matter now, assuming you don't accept it, you have to go to a court in London, not Port of Spain. You have to go to what is called set aside. It is not an appeal in that sense, because it's not the judgment of the High Court in this sense, but you have to go to set aside. I am asking today frontally, Rowley, tell us whether you will go to a court in London to set aside the ruling of the arbitration, whether you will go to court to have this dismissed, so to speak. Because when you got advice from senior counsel on the AV drilling matter, arbitration, you did not go to court to set aside. You did not take that further in the people's interest. Will you go do it here, where $1 billion in the air, jumping in the air, and the Prime Minister is responsible fundamentally? Members of the public, enough is enough. I think now these are serious questions, and also questions raised by Senator Mark, which have been most stomach churning to hear about this Quanten and that controversy that is on the horizon this morning. I think is some serious matters that the government must consider and the population must ask questions about and protest and raise their voices on these issues. So I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Oropouche East. Before we entertain questions, I just wanted to clarify one area. It is important to note that the outfit that will be coming to take charge, according to Curtis Williams, of our refining assets is not a single company. Take note, it is not a single company. It is going to be what is called a consortium. It is a consortium of companies. So in other words, after 4 years, this government has been unable to attract a single reputable company to take charge if you want to go that route of our refinery assets. So you know what you have to do? Get a consortium. Let me tell you what a consortium means so that everyone will understand. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, you know how they define a consortium? It is an agreement, combination, or group as of companies formed to undertake an enterprise beyond the resources of any one member. So so when they come here, they are coming here as Quanten Inc. as one company. They're going to come here as Quanten Consortium Trinidad and Tobago Limited. So this is what they did in a place called Angola. So there are 4 companies, one called Quanten LLC, the other one is called TGT Inc., and something called Ora and Sharp LLC, and another one called One Angola Actors Company. 4 companies form a consortium. That is what we are talking about, members of the media. So members of the media, the floor is now open to any questions, any clarification you will need to have from either Dr. Moonilal or myself on what we have said. So the floor is open and we are prepared to entertain your questions.
Ariana Mackenzie from Newsday, good morning. Yes, so you mentioned that it's 4 companies, right? I just need a clarification on the address because, you know, while we were speaking, I checked the website and the address that you called for Quantum Angola is not the address that I saw on the website. So I just wanted to clarify that. You said the business was registered as a house. So yeah.
What I'm saying is that based on the research that we have conducted thus far, and that was up to 2/26 yesterday.
Right.
Right? What we have discovered, I don't know if you are on the same page that I'm on, but what we have discovered is the following, and I have no problem in repeating it. Alright, first company that we have, based on our research, is Quanten Consortium Angola LLC. This company is incorporated in Texas, Houston, Texas registry. Okay, you have to go to the registry. The registered agent is one Dr. Sigon James Thomas, and his registered office address. He incorporated the company, and the registered office address of the company is what I've just said. It is a house located at 16506 Scenic Peaks Court, Houston, Texas 77059. I can send it to you via, I have it on my email, and I can send it to you at the end of this press conference, and I'm giving it to you as I got it from the registry of the Texan registry. The second one that I shared with the media is Quanten Consortium LLC, which was incorporated, that is the Aruba Consortium, which was incorporated on July the 1st, 2020, by the same agent, a chap called Dr. Sigon James Thomas. His registered office address, right, is 16506 Scenic Peaks Court, Houston, Texas 77059, which is a house. So I will send it to you before you leave. I have it on my system. Okay.
No problem. All right, so my next question is, have you put the question to the Prime Minister, to Stuart Young, regarding the legitimacy of the article as to whether Quanten is in fact the preferred bidder?
Mr. Stuart Young,
Yes.
the Prime Minister, Mr. Imber, they are all disrespectful individuals, and they hold contempt for the people of this country. We understand from reports that almost 6 weeks ago, that successful bidder was identified. And 6 weeks after, we may be wrong, because they are not sharing any information with the population. So we don't know. We have been investigating, and they have determined through their evaluation committee which bidder was successful. A determination was made about 6 weeks ago from our information, and up to this time, they have not addressed the people of Trinidad and Tobago, either through an after cabinet press conference or a statement in the parliament. I want to bring it to your attention. If you're not aware, I have a copy. It was on the 19th of September 2019. The Minister of Finance addressed the parliament when they were boasting. UNC can't do that, you know. Only PNM could do it. Why? They were outlining in the parliament Patriotic Energies and Technologies successful bid to own the refinery assets and the Paria assets. They came to the parliament, and I want to let you know, they outlined in detail what this process entailed. And ma'am, as you are here, I can share with you the document, because I have a copy of that document. The government outlined to the people of Trinidad and Tobago this entire process. So we know that they did that in 2019. Let me see if I get it here for you, so you will have an understanding that they ought to have come by now and provided to the people the position on this matter. But surprisingly, they have not done so. So we did not have any opportunity to raise with the government that issue that you have raised. But I do have a copy of that matter, and I'll make it available to you in a short while. Probably I have it in my bag. I didn't work with it, but I will make it available to you so that you will have an appreciation of that document that the government issued on that day. I have a copy of it. So the reason why we couldn't talk to anyone is because no one has talked to the people. What we have done is quoted and from an article in Thursday's Guardian from Curtis Williams, who said, and if I can quote you, Curtis Williams on page 10 of this article dated Thursday, May 26, 2022, and I quote, Quinten Consortium LLC is the preferred bidder for the Pointe-à-Pitre refinery according to highly placed sources in the office of the Prime Minister and Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited. This is what Curtis Williams reported in the Business Guardian. When we saw this, we began to do our own research, and we thought it fitting as the alternative government to bring to the attention of Trinidad and Tobago our findings. And what we have given you here, Trinidad and Tobago, is the tip of the iceberg. We have done comprehensive research. We now await the government. They have a duty to speak to the nation. They have a responsibility to tell us if what Curtis Williams said is true. What we are saying, if this is true, we have provided you and the country with our research findings on this company and its affiliates thus far. But they have not communicated to the country. We have now communicated. I reminded you earlier on this very important piece that was done by Mark Passant. He called it a gap in the bridge. What we have sought to do this morning is to bridge that gap. We have sought to bridge that gap by bringing to your attention and the attention of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago what is unfolded, and we sought to connect the dots involving previous experiences, WGTL, Bridgman Services Limited, NIDCO, and a company called RH Gas Energy Limited. So, ma'am, they have to speak to the nation and tell the nation whether, like Sandals, they are going to sell out our assets for a song and a dance to a company that was formed, according to what we have so far, recently, one in Angola and one in Aruba. That is what we are related.
I'm not sure if anyone else has.
We have a couple of questions that were sent in to Senator Mark. If what you say is correct, how could a company like Quinten Inc. qualify to tender in the first place? Have any laws or regulations been breached in this process?
I just want to indicate to Trinidad and Tobago the reason why the PNM government resisted any decision to implement the procurement legislation in our statute books is because they wanted to thief. They wanted to engage in legal banditry without any transparency, any accountability, any openness, any good governance principles, so they can go and sell out our refinery and they have nobody to account to. There is no independent oversight of the process, and that is what the procurement law was all about. So there will be oversight of these transactions. So Rowley and Stuart Young and Ingrid set up an evaluation team that they handpicked, and they are the ones who determine if this one will get it or that one will get it. That is not how a democratic state that believes in solid principles, values, and standards operate. That is all a kleptocracy, a government run by thieves and bandits and crooks. with no accountability, no transparency, no openness, and no good governance principle. That is what has happened.
Again, Senator Mark, what information regarding the bidding process has been disclosed to the Parliament by the government, and how does this revelation on Quanten impact the WTU's bid via Patriotic for the refinery?
There has been no communication whatsoever by the government to the Parliament on any matter surrounding this issue. The government is dead. The government has shrouded this whole matter into secrecy and a sense of mystery, so there is no accountability. So I'm sorry to tell the person who has asked the question, there has been no reporting, there has been no accountability on this issue. We as the alternative government has brought to the attention of Trinidad and Tobago research that we have conducted, so we don't have a sellout of our resources and assets to any group of carpetbaggers that the PNM might want to saddle Trinidad and Tobago with at this time. We reject that effort totally, comprehensively, and completely, and we tell Rowley, come again, try again. We will not allow the PNM to run away with our assets for a song and a dance. If what Mr. Curtis Williams has said is true, we will not permit PNM to thief the people's assets and sell it for a song and a dance. It is our considered view that these people from California are fronted, they are front men for somebody. We don't know who they are fronting for. What we find very strange, however, is that the secured parties have first lien on these assets. But yet still we are hearing that they are about to give up the refinery or to sell the refinery to X, Y, and Z. As I said, it might be a bit too early, but we have to go on reports that we have in the newspapers for the time being until Rowley, Imbert, and Stuart Young come to the People's Parliament and give us a comprehensive breakdown on the sale of the assets of our refinery and carrier fuel assets and infrastructure. We need information, clarification. We are responding to an article by Curtis William in the Guardian, called the Business Guardian, dated Thursday, May the 26th, 2022.
To Dr. Moonilal, you mentioned that the final figure that the government will have to pay may be well over $852 million. What, in your estimation, might be the final cost to taxpayers?
Thank you. As I said, there are outstanding costs, particularly legal costs and professional fees. And in matters of like this, legal costs can be in excess, in excess legal and professional fees of $100 million, given that it is not just the legal issues, but the range of expert witnesses and companies deemed to be expert witnesses that would have been used. At this stage, one is not sure whether OS will also seek that the government pay their costs as well. Those are issues that are outstanding, but clearly there's another $100 million or so that we will have to look at in terms of legal and professional fees from a matter of this magnitude, because this is a very, very weighty matter. It is a matter of enormous proportions, and as recognized in the ruling itself, it has been a very sophisticated and complex piece of litigation, and the government of Trinidad and Tobago being on the losing end of this matter, deemed to have wrongfully terminated the contract of OS. they may well have to incur some damages in terms of the costs associated with the OS taking of the matter as well.
In light of what you said, do you think that this matter warrants an independent investigation or something like a commission of inquiry?
Well, bearing in mind that we have yet to have the start of the commission of inquiry into the land matter at the Point Fortin Highway, I had said in Parliament before that the commission of inquiry into the land acquisition of the highway should be scrapped, should be dismantled and withdrawn immediately. Incidentally, the Parliament just approved $5 million to pay the commissioners in the commission of inquiry into Point Fortin Highway, which have not started yet. So I imagine that $5 million is for people reading documents and so on. So $5 million is gone. A commission hasn't started yet. This is a matter that deserves a full public inquiry by independent persons. And it may well be a commission of inquiry into this. We have had commissions of inquiry into matters that have been less costly, so to speak. This is a $1 billion matter. The highway acquisition matter is a matter that cannot even be properly entertained now, given all the time, the passage of time and the issues that are involved there. The government has no moral authority, the government has no competence, no political will as it deals with commissions of inquiry. May I remind the viewers and listeners that the Divers tragedy, a tragedy of February 2022, this is the end of May 2022, and we have not had sight yet of any serious inquiry. No report from the OSHA, no commission of inquiry. In fact, the commission of inquiry is still not properly constituted, because in the Parliament they told us that while they have appointed a commissioner, apparently another commissioner would be a company, a firm that specializes in these areas of safety and marine safety and so on. But that has not been secured yet. So there has been no completed appointment of a commission of inquiry into the Divers tragedy. In fact, the only person we hear about there is the legal counsel. He has been speaking, Mr. Ramesh Maharaj. He's the only one I think appointed. He's the only one talking. But that has not gotten on the way yet involving the horrible and horrific and tragic death of citizens in that way. I mean, just to remember it again is a tragedy as well. It hurts. But that will come, that will go, and there have been no proper, timely institution of a commission of inquiry. So we have no confidence in this government now in terms of this. But I believe that an incoming government should certainly consider, I believe an incoming government should consider the establishment of a proper and speedy inquiry into this entire debacle. And again, I want to repeat, Mr. Herbert George, I think it's worthy to repeat, because people sometimes forget names. They remember Wade Mark and Roodal Moonilal, but they don't remember Herbert George, Stephen Gardiner, Steve Chady, Keith Golomew, Barry Tomyu, Nirmala Maharaj, Charles Mitchell, Vern Shield, Cuco Melville. These persons must be found and they must be held accountable by a professional team that may or may not be a commission of inquiry, but some serious inquirers and investigators. The Prime Minister, is hurried. He says he sends Mr. Jacob to look for a report for child abuse 1997. He tells Mr. Jacob, go down to the NIDCO office and find out who authorized the addendum before the general election 2015. Mr. Jacob, when you are there, please find out who authorized the termination of this contract. Mr. Jacob, please, when you're going down there on that other business for Mr. Rowley, find out who was the legal advisor that gave legal advice that led to an $852 million loss in the tribunal in London. So when Mr. Jacob goes down there, he may want to inquire not only about the addendum, but he may want to inquire as to the role of Mr. Herbert George and others in this matter, legal advisor and others, and the role indeed of Mr. Stuart Young, who we are informed was a key personality in this matter as well. Thank you.
All right, before we close, any member of the media would like to have a copy of this document. It is a document that came out from the Global Legal Chronicle showing their heritage sometime in the month of May, went on the international capital market to raise $500 million in a bond and to also borrow another $500 million in a loan. this is US dollars we are talking about, so it's $1 billion they are going to raise in addition to what they have already secured. This was not known to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We had to dredge this up from this particular publication called Global Legal Chronicle. So you can have a look at it. And the final thing I want to raise before we close off, I have been asking on behalf of the United National Congress for the government and the Prime Minister to explain, Dr. Moonilal, how can you import 2.4 billion liters of refined fuel products made up of premium, made up of super, made up of diesel, made up of jet fuel, right? Only utilized for domestic consumption 1.1 billion liters, and then re-export 1.3 billion liters, and we have no accountability as to where and to whom and at what price we are getting for our fuel. Remember, members of the media, there's a Freedom of Information report that claimed that between 1st of December 2018 to January of 2022, Trinidad and Tobago spent in US dollars 3.6 billion US dollars, or the equivalent of 22.2 billion TT dollars in the importation of refined products. So we are using scarce foreign exchange to import 1.3 billion liters, right, of refined fuel products, re-exporting that to who we don't know. For how much, we don't know. Are we making a loss or a profit? We don't know. We call on the government to account to the people of Trinidad and Tobago for this re-exportation of 1.3 billion liters of refined fuel products. Thank you, members of the public and members of the media. On behalf of the United National Congress, we would like to thank the media for covering this Sunday press briefing or press conference. Again, let me on behalf of our leadership, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, and the broad and large membership of our great and glorious party, extend to all our Indo-Trinidad and Tobago brothers and sisters, happy Indian Arrival Day 2022 after 177 years. Happy Indian Arrival Day to not only the people of Indo-Trinidad and Tobago descent, but the entire citizenry of the Republic of T&T. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.